were you born in Florida? And they said, yeah. Do you know how rare it is to find a true natural native born Floridian? It's quite amazing, right? But they said, oh, yeah. And then I said, where are you going when you finish school? They said, oh, we're going back to Florida. I said, oh, that's nice. And I looked at the guy and I said, did you know that they're reporting that 1 out of every 4 Floridians are felons? He went, he gave me the same look, right? So anyway, I'm sitting in the Blackwater Osteopath, and that man saved my life, by the way, helping me after I had a stroke. Anyway, so I'm sitting there and I'm talking to the guy. I say, hey, how you doing? Now, last time I met with him, he told me some stuff that I really, about his own personal story. It was very grievous. Man, you're talking about some people suffer and we don't even know, right? I didn't start my clock. There we go. So anyway, I'm talking to him and he said, we're talking about medical issues and he's some kind of natural doctor, but he comes to our doctor for a different issue. And he makes a statement to me. He said, you know what? I have a friend of mine that's a surgeon. And he said, when I conduct surgery on certain people, he said that we can cut the body cavity open. And what he told me, I thought to myself, man, children need to know this. If you look with me in the book of Esther, let's go there. The book of Esther, chapter 1. I want to show you where the king influences other people. Your influence has a massive, 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 massive weight on decisions you make and decisions you make and directions that you choose to go. Massive, massive influence. You say, well, how do we know that? Well, you can just read the book of Genesis and find that out pretty quick. How in the world did a man that walked with God, that talked with God, that fellowshiped with God, fall prey to the words of his wife and go, oh, that's no problem. It's a major problem. God told him specifically, do not do that. But because of influence, he was swayed. Now notice the influence of the king in Esther chapter 1, verse 8. And we're not talking about a godly king. We're talking about someone that just, his name is Ahasuerus. And that's in verse 1. You can see that. In verse 8 it said, and the drinking was according to the law. None did compel. Nobody made you do it. Right? For so the king had appointed to all the officers of his house that they should do according to every man's what? So the drinking was not according to the law that you compel people, but you just drink to your pleasure. Do you know why it's bad for officials to drink alcohol? Because the Bible teaches they pervert judgment. So if you're a politician and you're a stouter, your problem is alcohol. I can full well determine that if you partake of alcohol, you are going to pervert judgment. You say, where'd you get that? That's not my opinion. It's in the Word of God. So here you have an example of suggestions just to do your own pleasure. Not what you've seen that, right? Just do it. You've seen that shirt. Yeah, well, we're going to make one that says just do right. And we're going to give you a whole bunch of verses on your shirt. I know some of you like to wear that. Just do right. What's wrong with doing right? You and I have to be very, very careful of our influences. And it doesn't matter if you're 8, 28, 38, or 88, or 98. It doesn't matter. You have to watch your influences, right? But the king is under the influence of alcohol, and I want you to notice what happened in verse 12. But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's commandment by his chamberlains. Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned in him. Okay, so here are these pagans. Let's picture this. Look. Here's these pagans, and he has a very beautiful wife named Vashti. The king does, Ahasuerus, and Ahasuerus tells his chamberlains, as basically his workers, hey, go tell Miss Queen Vashti to come back. We just want everybody to look at her. That's what, in essence, he wanted everybody to look at his wife and see how beautiful she was. Well, that's wonderful. God made you that way, but she don't particularly enjoy that fact, evidently, and said, in no southern terms, I ain't coming. I'm not going. She didn't go. She didn't go. And look at his emotion. Therefore, verse 12, the latter part, therefore was the king what? Very wroth, and his what? Anger burned in him. I would submit to you that because of alcohol, he's responding, not being sensitive to the needs of his queen and not even caring what her opinion is. And he expresses wrath and great anger, and anger so bad that it was burning in him. I hear people make these say, oh, I can handle my liquor. No, you can't handle liquor. That's part of the deception that you got the problem anyway. You cannot handle it. It doesn't matter who you are. Now, look at verse 15. What shall we do unto the Queen Vashti according to the law? So what's he do? He asks his wise men. Well, what has he already told his wise men about drinking alcohol? Go ahead, do as you please. Well, some people don't please. And some people don't drink. And I understand all that. And thank God for it. And a Christian shouldn't drink either. Why? Because you are going to experience emotions that are not anchored in reality. So it says here that he asked his wise men, which are all under the protection. Folks, we're talking days of drinking. You understand that? Days of drinking and partying and carrying on like heathens do. And then he asks, what shall we, look at this statement. What shall we do? What? What's that? What's those three words right there? Unto the queen, right? Unto the Queen Vashti according to the law. So, because she hath not performed the commandment of the king Ahasuerus by the chamberlains. Now, what does he get in reply? So you're talking about a massive party, massive, days long, unbelievably expensive. You and I have never seen anything like that. We have never witnessed, and even if we did, we should certainly not even show up. Look at verse 16 and 17, and look what he gets. Look at the response that he gets. And Macmucan, man, what a name. And Macmucan answered before the king and the princes, Vashti the queen hath not done wrong to the king only, but also to the princes and to all the people. By the way, all the people didn't know it. And to all the people that are in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, for this deed of the queen shall come abroad to all women, so that they shall despise their husband in their eyes. When it shall be reported, the king Ahasuerus commanded Vashti the queen to be brought before him, but she came not. Listen, you know what that is? That's seeking wrong counsel and wrong influence that is dramatizing. It's drama. So here they have this big party. It's all alcohol based, and when he asked for help, or he asked what we should do unto the. Why didn't you go talk to your wife? Well, we didn't do that. You know, my dad told me years ago, if you have a home with no communication, how do you state that? Without communication, you have cohabitation. You do not have a home. There has to be communication. He's mad, he's angry, he's disturbed, and he makes these decisions based on an alcohol premise. What do? They give him a drama. Hey, listen. They give him a dramatized answer. I don't need that. I don't need drama. Right? I have to deal with the problems, all of us. And when I'm using the word I, hear me out. I'm having to deal with the shock of something that happens, the announcement of something that happens, or someone's behavior. You with me? And then I have some drama mama, no offense, somebody it doesn't male or female, it doesn't make no difference. They're dramatizing what we're going through. You don't need drama. Because when you have drama, you make irrational decisions. And the king and his court, what do? They look for another queen. But the point of focus, I want to show you something in Esther chapter 2. Esther chapter 2, and we're going to read all the way down to verse, where we're going to start at, let's go to verse 10. Now, let me catch you up. Mordecai is a man that is a Jew, and he's in the palace Shushan. And listen now, are you listening? He has taken his first cousin to be his daughter. Her parents had passed away. He took care of his first cousin, and the Bible said like that she was his own daughter. He's in Shushan the palace. If you ever do any study, that's a big place. He's in Shushan the palace. They're looking for another queen. All kind of debates on this. It doesn't make any difference. That's not what we're talking about. He submits to her, or submits Esther, Hadassah, her name Hadassah, Esther. He submits her to a competition beauty contest, and ultimately she wins it. In Esther chapter 2, verse 11, so she's there. Listen, young kids, listen, young people, listen to me. This is a first cousin that cares for a young girl that was orphaned like she is his own. She goes before this presentation before the king, but as before this happens, he's outside. Look at verse 11. And Mordecai walked every day before the court of the women's house to know how Esther did and what should become of her. He is concerned about her. There's never a time, I'm telling you this, I called my parents when we first had our first child. I called my parents and I confessed everything I ever did stupid. I asked them to forgive me for this and forgive me for that and forgive me for this. Why would that be? I had my first child. Well, she had the child, and we celebrated. We right. So we got the little one in the house. You with me? I called my mom and dad and asked them to forgive me for anything I've ever done wrong, stupid, sinful, anything. Why is that? Anybody want to say out loud? I tell you why. Because I realize how much they love me. You understand that your parents love you, and I'm not talking about things where people are nuts. I'm talking about people that love their children, that walk with God, and we've already discussed that last week. I'm not going on that rabbit trail. It is ungodly. It is ungodly not to love your children. It's ungodly. It's ungodly not to give them instruction and help them. I'm going to tell you, the world can get the fact that why should a marriage be the way it should be is to provide a home of natural, normal structure for children so they don't have to grow up in adversity. Man, he's walking in, and this is something you can learn from verse 11. Your mother, your father, they love you. And then in verse 17, she's made the queen. In verse 22, you look at Mordecai discovers a conspiracy. I'm going to behave myself. We're not going to talk about the problems with conspiracies and everything that I'm going to behave. Anyway, Mordecai discovers a conspiracy and he turns it in, and the king finds out about it, and then the king deals with treasonous behavior in the way treasonous behavior is supposed to be done, even in the United States, as far as dealing with it. Okay, chapter 3, verse 1. I'm going somewhere. You need to pay attention. I'm laying down some groundwork to help you out. I'm trying to help you out as a young person, middle-aged person, or old person. You better watch your influence. The king influences other people. His wise men are influencing him. He makes wrong decisions about his wife. He's drinking. He's on alcohol. He's angry. His anger's burning within him. He's not being rational. And then of all things, this happens. Chapter 3, verse 1. After these things did the king Ahasuerus promote Haman. That's a bad mistake. The son of Hammedatha and the Agagite, and advanced him and set a seat above all the princes that were with him. And all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence. Hey, I told you earlier that it's less than 13% of people will stand up and say, no, man, we ain't doing that. Hey, that's wrong. That's wrong. And just because someone has the audacity to tell you that your position or what you believe is wrong, it doesn't matter. Listen, they're not. Oh, man. You and I have to realize that we have got to stand up. Do you understand that? We got to. One man stands up and says, nope, that's wrong. That's wrong. I'm not doing it. He didn't verbally say that. He just stood there. Everybody's bowing down, and he's just standing there. Chapter 3, verse 2. And all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman. For the king had so commanded concerning him, but Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence. Then the king's servants which were in the king's gate said unto Mordecai, why transgressest thou the king's commandment? So the king's servants tell Haman, they first question Mordecai, why are you not bowing? Don't think that you're not going to make a stand somewhere in your life and someone is going to question you. We had a family member confront us one time because we would not participate in a wedding activity that we didn't want the family involved in it. And man, this quiet, non-aggressive individual ripped my hide. I said, I don't care if you disagree or not. I'm not worried about culture. I'm worried about what's biblically correct. Hello? I'm not worried about culture. I'm going to stand where the Word of God stands. I mean, he ripped my hide. We're brokenhearted, offended. This, that. Oh. It wasn't 5 years later. He said, can I sit down with you and tell you something, you and my sister? I said, yeah. Outside my wife, he's the only Christian in the family other than her parents that had passed away. He sat down and he said, do you know the exact stand that you had to make? I said, yeah. He said, the exact same thing happened to me just this past month. I said, what'd you do? He said, I took the stand, and I want you to know I've sinned, and I asked you to forgive me. You know, your stand does matter. But when you're called into question for the stand that you make, just stand on the truth. Be kind, be nice, be cordial. You don't have to be committed to being involved in other people's debauchery, but kind and cordial. Now, here we go. You ready? So the king's servants tell Haman, go to the king, let the king find out. Let's see if or tell Haman, and you tell Haman, and then we'll see if Mordecai's stand will stand. We'll see if he keeps on standing. And Mordecai told Esther, don't you dare mention your people. Hey, I'm losing you. If you miss this, you're going to miss it. It's like it used to be the Washington Post. They said, if you don't get it, you're not going to get it. If you let your mind drift right here in this message, you're going to lose where I'm going. But see, what had happened is that Mordecai made a mistake. He told Esther, do not tell anybody that you're a Jew. But he told the servants of Haman, of the servants of a king. Yeah, I'm a Jew. Whatever. And then look at me in verse 5, chapter 3, verse 5. So Mordecai will not bow down. Verse 5. And when Haman saw that Mordecai did what? Bowed not, nor did him reverence. Then Haman was what? Full of wrath. Angry people, they have no problem telling you what. Angry people are not stable people. Well, that's how I was raised. Then you wasn't raised right. Because this is unjustified anger. Imagine, he's on this horse, Everybody's bound down, but one guy standing there, he's not bound. And Haman goes away full of wrath. Folks, do you understand that he's rubbing shoulders with one of the most powerful men in the world? And he's rubbing shoulders with the king? Listen, people are so worried about affirmation, it is ridiculous what people do to try to get affirmation, try to get people to, would you agree with me? No, just stick to the truth. Now, verse 6. Somebody read verse 6 for us. Chapter 3, verse 6.
And he thought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had showed him the people of Mordecai. Wherefore Haman sought to destroy all the Jews that were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, even the people of Mordecai.
Okay. Does that make any sense whatsoever? He's mad. He's offended. He's got his emotions on his shirt sleeve like a little. He's all offended. He finds out that Mordecai is a Jew. So what does he decide to do? He makes a very rational decision. We're just going to kill all the Jews. We're going to find out how to kill all of them. That's what we're going to do. Is that rational or irrational? It's not. It's crazy. It's insanity. But that's what that need of affirmation was, and that's where it leads to. So what happens? The plot to kill is in verse 7 through 12. Notice what it says. Verse 7 through 12. The plot to kill. So in the first month, that is the month Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast pur, that is the lot, before Haman from day to day and from month to month to the 12th month, that is the month Adar. And Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, there's a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of thy kingdom, and their laws are diverse from all people, neither keep they the king's laws. So what's he doing? He's demonizing them. He's demonizing them. He's demonizing them just like Adolf Hitler did. They don't keep the laws, and therefore it's not for the king's profit to suffer them. In other words, you don't need them. Verse 9. If it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the hand of those that have charge of the business to bring it into the king's treasuries. And the king took his ring from his hand and gave it unto Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, and the Jews' enemy. And the king said unto Haman, the silver is given to thee, and the people also to do with them as it seemeth good to thee. Then were the king's scribes called on the 13th day in the first month, and there was written according to all that Haman had commanded unto the king's lieutenants and to the governors there above every province, and to the rulers of every people of every province, according to the writing thereof, and to the people after their language, and in the name of the king of Ahasuerus, it is written and sealed with the king's ring. Now look at verse 15. Look all the way down at the end. And Haman sat down to do what? Hello? And Haman sat down to drink. But the city Shushan was what? Reasonable people look at unreasonable people behavior and say, that don't even make any sense. So, as a review, I'm going to stop, and we're going to pick this back up in 10 minutes. If you leave, you're making a mistake. If you do not, just stay here, listen, I'll be brief, but this is where we're going. We took all this to get this where we are. I was sitting in this doctor's office, and he said, yeah, I don't know why anybody would do. He said, but when my surgeon friend said, when we cut the cavity, the chest cavity open, I heard something I have never heard before in my life, and it will help you to not make rotten, wrong decisions. Every head bowed, every eye closed. Father, thank you for the opportunity to be able to introduce these truths. I pray that you'd help us to give tight, good attendance